Well, I never really thought too much of it in terms of achievement. It's been fun. Well, there are people in science, of course, who are shooting for the Nobel Prize, who are shooting to be the top dog in this field. But I think most of us are just interested in learning something that will push the knowledge a little bit further ahead. And, that's gratifying.
And I think Dr. Comstock is the best epidemiologist, or one of the best epidemiologists that I've ever known. Certainly the best epidemiologist alive, in my opinion. He has made incredible contributions in many fields. Well, one of the main areas he's worked on is tuberculosis. In my opinion, he is the foremost expert on tuberculosis, not just in the United States, in the whole world.
George.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Nice day, David.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. At least it isn't raining. Right.
He makes you feel that you want to be a better researcher and a better person, and also to look at the broader picture of public health. And I think that's really a gift he has, and trying to convey that to students.
I think he's the great general practitioner of public health. He's not somebody that just works in the community, he works with the community. And all those characteristics have been passed on, and I have great admiration for them.
1, 2, 1, 2.
He's well balanced. He stresses the importance of having a hobby, and for him it's his music, which he also brings to the community and works with that.
Bob and Laura Byler came to town, I think, in the late 60s. Bob's a psychiatrist and Laura was a psychiatric nurse. They joined our big group, the Elizabethtown group. But music has been my major recreation since I was a kid. I've been lucky all my life. Niagara Falls in the 20s and 30s was a prosperous town because of the electricity. And we had very good schools. So I was lucky there. I got a start. I went to a college, Antioch College, where we worked half-time and went to school half-time. At that time I thought I wanted to be a metallurgist like my father. I was given a job with a carborundum company and quickly discovered I really don't like this very well. So I added more biology to my background. When I decided to go get a PhD in biochemistry, my boss, who was a biochemist, said, "Don't be a darn fool. Get your MD and you can do everything I can do and things more." Well, that kind of made sense. And when I was choosing medical schools, he said, "Choose Harvard." And it turned out that Harvard at that time was I think almost the only school in the country that didn't flunk out a quarter to a half of the students the first year. I was very lucky to go to Harvard in that respect. And when it came time to choose an internship, we didn't have all that much money. My folks were pretty hard put, and my wife was working to help me get through medical school. I was working when I could. And so I thought, well, I'm kind of interested in the public health service. And if you interned with them, you got the pay of a second lieutenant. Or if you interned anywhere else, you got room, board, and laundry, and if you were lucky, $50 a month. So I volunteered for that, and I got sent to sea duty in the Atlantic. When I got off sea duty, for reasons completely unknown to me, perhaps it's because I'd worked in a TB SAN as a medical student, and I was lucky to be assigned down to Columbus, Georgia, the newly developed TB control division. At that time, I was beginning to get interested in high blood pressure, partly because in our work down there, we actually found more cases of hypertensive heart disease than we did TB. I was allowed to use that as my doctoral thesis when the Public Health Service sent me to Hopkins. I came to school with my data in hand and was able to complete my doctorate in 1 year, which was sort of cheating because I'd done a lot of the work ahead of time. While I was at Hopkins, I think 1 out of every 30 Alaska natives was in a TB hospital. Gives you some idea of the magnitude of the problem in the early 50s. Well, the nurses wanted some background in tuberculosis, and they asked the Public Health Service to send someone up. And nobody in the TB division wanted to go, so they said, well, let's send Comstock. He's over at Hopkins. He's not doing anything. And shucks, I'd wanted to go to Alaska all my life, so I accepted in a minute. And when I discovered what the problem was, I came back and said, this is a wonderful place to start trying preventive treatment. I had trouble persuading them that it was really that bad. They said, oh no, they're just calling everything TB. It can't be that bad. Never's been that bad anywhere before. Well, two things changed their mind. One is they were finding similar situation in Greenland, which sort of hurt my feelings that they'd believe the Danes and not me. And they agreed to send some people up to do some tuberculin testing. And their tuberculin testing showed even in '57 that it was 8% per year, which is still a horrendous attack rate. It doesn't take very long to get to the 100% rate. And they finally agreed, and we started the program in December 1957. So that happened as a result of, if I hadn't been at Hopkins not doing anything, I wouldn't have had this opportunity.
Dr. Comstock is the reason that we have the research here in Washington County, and his relationship with the community physicians, work in epidemiology, and his knowledge and expertise helped to bring the projects here to Washington County.
The head of our department and the dean of the school were interested in field training for epidemiologists, and we were lucky enough to get the first grant in that allowed us to set up a training center where we could bring students out, supervise their field research, provide them with an office, provide them with clerical help in hiring people and that sort of thing, epidemiologic expertise. We've been able to keep going these years doing one thing or another.
He works with the community because he's realized how important it is, and he took everything he knew from working in the community, and first thing, one of the forethoughts to start a specimen bank that could be used to look for clues for prevention. And he was one of the first to set aside such a bank.
We'd start with our weekly staff meeting. So it was really because of Dr. Comstock and his influence that I actually got really interested in public health. Dr. Comstock has a lot of respect for people and for the people who are our research subjects. He doesn't even like the term subjects, because he feels like that's somewhat demeaning. He has ingrained in the staff here a feeling that we need to be very appreciative of our research subjects, and that we need to, protect them, protect their confidentiality. That's very important to him.
And some of these outcomes you may decide are not really all that important. You can cut those down too.
To me, it's been really amazing the fact that he chose to come out to Hagerstown, to live in Washington County, to have to commute, an hour and a half both ways to get in to teach classes, to do his full-time faculty work at Hopkins, as well as run the program out here in Washington County. To me, this speaks volumes in terms of his commitment to the community.
If nobody dropped out, you don't need survival analysis. The students, they're a remarkable bunch of people. We have some very, very interesting students. You can learn a lot from them. And when they seem to appreciate what you've done, that's a big ego booster too. Because they had a wonderful opportunity to distinguish. To know that maybe you've helped somebody else progress. I'm not much of a believer in immortality, but in a way that's your immortality too, isn't it?
I was a student in his famous tuberculosis course. That was an experience on its own. He's a role model to his students, within and outside the classroom. And as a personality, has inspired us all. And he represents still what a teacher of public health should be.
He's very charismatic, in my opinion. He has that sort of attractiveness to students. He's not pompous, not like some professors who are very formal in their demeanor. He's very informal, very open. But also because he has a quality which is not too common. In spite of all his sophistication, he's very down to earth.
He gets down on his knees and picks up a pencil and actually do the calculation together with the students. He also makes the lab very interesting by bringing out little stories about people who developed the methods in epidemiology, and I think that really adds an interesting touch to the student-teacher interaction.
When you talk to him one-on-one, he doesn't intimidate you or make you feel small. Instead, he makes you feel like he's a colleague of yours. I think that's a great art. Because what it does is it makes you learn from him, and you feel comfortable to ask him questions and to talk naturally about things, even though he knows so much more than you and he has done so much more in the field.
Not only is he a good mentor and a researcher and a professional, but he was also able to, in doing all that, maintain a wonderful relationship with his wife. They were married 60 years when she died, and she would travel with him, and so it's just an indication that family is important too, and such the well-rounded person that he is.
I think we were a team, but she was the activist. She did the things that and she did them in a way that I would never have been able to do, even if I'd had the time. And of course she supported me. She kept the house while I was off in Alaska a month at a time. She supported the research, was interested in that. If it hadn't been for her, I couldn't have done what I did. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, when I was a kid, my parents wanted me to take the piano. That was the only rebellion I ever won, and that was even only a partial victory, because they said, okay, if it isn't the piano, it's got to be something else. And that led to the recorders. This was my first recorder. I bought it in medical school after I'd given a transfusion, and it paid you money in those days for giving transfusions. So I went out and bought this recorder for $5. Probably be $200 nowadays. It's really a pretty good recorder. Let's see, there are other strange instrument that you might like to know about is the so-called crumhorn, curved horn, and it's one of the more ancient instruments played during the medieval and Renaissance times, a capped reed where you have no control of it except the air pressure. I'm not an artist. If you're talking about musicians in science, I've always said you don't have to be an artist to be a satisfactory musician. You know, you just work hard. There's still things to be learned, and I guess in many instances that's the hope that keeps us going.
He has imprinted on all of us good, solid principles, and hopefully he'll live on through us and what we do, the many, many people that he's touched everywhere.
I just think it's very impressive that someone who's achieved so much and has done so much for the field of public health and epidemiology is still so humble and still so enthusiastic.
It's been a great privilege. I think one of the best things that ever happened to me is to have had the opportunity to work with Dr. Thompson, and particularly to be a friend of Dr. Thompson's.
No man is an island. We all depend on the rest of the people we happen to work with, and I've been lucky all my life to work with top-notch people. And I look back over my life, just how many little changes could have just made an entirely different person out of me at several places along the line. But what would I do if I were just graduating from medical school right now? I've often thought about that. I really don't know. I might still go into public health, because there you can, even though your successes are measured by things not happening, and so you have to have your own private satisfaction from your successes, but still, you can look back and say, well, I'm doing something useful for a human. Horace Mann was the president of the original Antioch College, and on the grounds there's a monument there that has his parting statement to the graduating class of 1854 when he was giving up the presidency. I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity. that sort of stuck me as the main purpose in living. You know, it doesn't have to be, none of us make a big victory, but anybody can make some little victories.